Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure now to introduce our next guests, Brian Dillon and Jeremy Millar. It's another collaboration tonight, and it will be an homage to Chris Marker. Brian Dillon is UK editor of Cabinet and tutor in critical writing at the Royal College of Art. He's also editor of Ruins and author of Sanctuary, many other books, Tormented Hope, 9 Hypochondriac Lives, as well as In the Dark Room, A Journey in Memory. Dillon writes regularly for Art Forum, Frieze, Art Review, The Guardian, the London Review of Books, and Wire. Forthcoming works include the essay collection Culture and Curiosity and Blown All to Nothing, the story of an explosion at the Gunpowder Works in Kent in 1916. Jeremy Millar is an artist living in Whitstable and a tutor in art criticism at the Royal College of Art in London. His many recent exhibitions include Resemblances, Sympathies and Other Acts at the CCA in Glasgow, and also Monday Green. It's a collaboration with Geoffrey Farmer at the Project Art Centre in Dublin, in Ireland. He conceived the largest exhibition of the visual art of John Cage so far, which was called Every Day is a Good Day at the Baltic Gateshead, and this show is still touring. Brian and Jeremy will be in conversation titled In Memory, Chris Marker. A very warm welcome to Brian Dillon and Jeremy Millar.
Thanks very much, Hans-Ulrich. A good evening. Earlier this year, about midsummer, Hans-Ulrich invited me to a meeting to discuss the memory marathon. And we sat in his office, and within, I think, 5 minutes, we had hit on the fond, unlikely, but very seductive notion of inviting Chris Marker to come and speak at the memory marathon. Within another minute, Hans-Ulrich was on his BlackBerry emailing Marker. And I left that office feeling as if some kind of very long-standing dream might conceivably, but probably wouldn't, given Marker's reticence about such appearances, wouldn't come true. Within, I think, 3 or 4 days, Chris Marker had left us. But we decided to go ahead. And so what we'd like to do this evening is simply, in the weeks and months since Marker died, much has been said about him as a maker of images and as a maker of memories. One of the things that we thought might be valuable to do would be to think of Chris Marker as a reader, and to think of him as a reader who drew into his work a number of beloved, a number of quoted, a number of connected texts, works by poets, novelists, philosophers, and so on. And so what we want to offer, just by way, I hope, of a kind of modest memorial, is simply to read some passages that Marker loved. Thank you.
I remember him. I scarcely have the right to use this ghostly verb. Only one man on earth deserved the right, and he is dead. I remember him with a dark passion flower in his hands, looking as no one has ever looked at such a flower, though they might look from the twilight of day until the twilight of night, for a whole life long. I remember him, his face immobile and Indian-like, and singularly remote, behind his cigarette. I remember, I believe, the strong, delicate fingers of the plainsman who can braid leather. I remember, near those hands, a vessel in which to make mate tea, bearing the arms of the Banda Oriental. I remember, in the window of the house, a yellow rush mat, and beyond, a vaguely marshy landscape. I remember clearly his voice, the deliberate, resentful, nasal voice of the old Eastern shoremen, without the Italianate syllables of today. I did not see him more than 3 times, the last time in 1887.
But when from a long distant past, nothing subsists, after the people are dead, after the things are broken and scattered, still, alone, more fragile, but with more vitality, more insubstantial, more persistent, more faithful, the smell and taste of things remain poised a long time, like souls, ready to remind us, waiting and hoping for their moment amid the ruins of all the rest, and bear unfalteringly, in the tiny and almost impalpable drop of their essence, the endless edifice of recollection.
I'm sure mine only works one way, Alice remarked. I can't remember things before they happen. It's a poor sort of memory that only works backwards, the Queen remarked. What sort of things do you remember best? Alice ventured to ask. Oh, things that happened the week after next, the Queen replied in a careless tone.
We do not move only in one direction. Rather, do we wander back and forth, turning now this way and now that. We go back on our own tracks. That thought of Montaigne's reminds me about something I thought of in connection with flying saucers, humanoids, and the remains of unbelievably advanced technology found in some ancient ruins. They write about aliens, but I think that in these phenomena, we are in fact confronting ourselves, that is, our future, our descendants who are actually traveling in time.
With my machine, a person or an animal or a thing is like the station that broadcasts the concert you hear on the radio. If you turn the dial for the olfactory waves, you will smell the jasmine perfume on Madeleine's throat without seeing her. By turning the dial of the factile waves, you will be able to stroke her soft, invisible hair and learn, like the blind, to know things by your hands. But if you turn all the dials at once, Madeleine will be reproduced completely, and she will appear exactly as she is. You must not forget that I'm speaking of images extracted from mirrors, with the sounds, tactile sensations, flavors, odors, temperatures, all synchronized perfectly. An observer will not realize that they are images. And if our images were to appear now, you yourselves would not believe me. Instead, you would find it easier to think that I had engaged a group of actors, improbable doubles for each of you.
For many years already, everything about Combray that was not the theatre and drama of my bedtime had ceased to exist for me. When one day in winter, as I came home, my mother, seeing that I was cold, suggested that, contrary to my habit, I have a little tea. I refused at first, and then, I do not know why, changed my mind. She sent for one of those squat, plump cakes called Petite Madeleine that look as though they have been moulded in the grooved shell of a scallop. And soon, mechanically, oppressed by the gloomy day and the prospect of a sad future, I carried to my lips a spoonful of tea in which I had let soften a piece of Madeleine. But at the very instant when the mouthful of tea mixed with cake crumbs touched my palate, I quivered, attentive to the extraordinary thing that was happening in me. A delicious pleasure had invaded me, isolated me, without my having any notion as to its cause. It had immediately made the vicissitudes of life unimportant to me, its disasters innocuous, its brevity illusory, acting in the same way that love acts, by filling me with a precious essence, or rather, this essence was not in me, it was me.
All the same, it's a nice name, Eurydice. And you did bring me back from the netherworld, didn't you? But instead of to the Seine and the muddy quay, my mind went back to those cave dwellings near the Loire, whose deathly silence was only broken by the monotonous drip of water. He put his hand on hers. From that day, he playfully called her Eurydice. He would never have dared call her Madeleine. Besides, Madeleine was a married woman, another man's wife. Eurydice belonged to him and him alone. He held her in his arms, in the water admittedly, and with a shadow of death on her face.
That day, I thought I had really got hold of something and that my life would be changed. But nothing of that nature is irrevocably gained. Like water, the world washes through you and lends you its colours for a time. Then it draws back and leaves you once again before the emptiness you bear within yourself, that central insufficiency of the soul you have to learn to live with, and which, paradoxically, may be our surest motivation.
The willow contemplates the heron's reflection upside down.
An accident is nothing, quite precisely nothing. There's the moment before, when the plane leaves the runway, when a certain quality of silence around it, a certain anticipation in the light, hides it from movement, a petrifying fountain. Like an angel pressed for time, who plucks the souls from men, like the blindfold placed on a condemned man seconds before death. And the moment after, when the plane is no more than a dart in the ground, a fried grasshopper, a cross. Between the two, nothing. You're amazed to have seen it coming. You know, you're ready to swear that the moment the plane took off, you expected the accident, and all the rest just met your expectations. And yet, you didn't move or make a sound. The accident is a fakir. It lulls you to pull off its feet. Sometimes all you have to do is say something, reach out your hand to ward off its work.
At the time of my idle hours, I note without precise design the trifles whose fleeting reflection passes through my mind.
The apparition of these faces in the crowd, petals on a wet black bough.
Weren't you astonished by the caution of human gestures on attic gravestones? Wasn't love and departure placed so gently on shoulders that it seemed to be made of a different substance than in our world? Remember the hands, how weightlessly they rest, though there is power in the torsos. These self-mastered figures know. We can go this far, this is ours, to touch upon one another this lightly. The gods can press down harder upon us, but this is the gods' affair.
Things that quicken the heart. A sparrow with nestlings, going past a place where tiny children are playing, lighting some fine incense and lying down alone to sleep, looking into a Chinese mirror that's a little clouded. A fine gentleman pulls up in a carriage and sends in some request. To wash your hair, apply your makeup, and put on clothes that are well scented with incense. Even if you're somewhere where no one special will see you, you still feel a heady sense of pleasure inside. On a night when you're waiting for someone to come, there's a sudden gust of rain and something rattles in the wind, making your heart beat suddenly faster. Cats. Cats should be completely black, except for the belly, which should be very white.
Hear and attend and listen, for this befell and behappened and became and was, O my best beloved, when the tame animals were wild. The dog was wild, and the horse was wild, and the cow was wild, and the sheep was wild, and the pig was wild as wild could be, and they walked in the wet wild woods by their wild loins. But the wildest of all the wild animals was the cat. He walked by himself, and all places were alike to him.
With his 4 dromedaries, Don Pedro de Alfarobera roamed the world and liked it. He did what I'd do if I had 4 dromedaries.
Plume can't say people are nice to him when he travels. Some bump into him and don't say they're sorry. Others wipe their hands on his coat. He has gotten used to it over the years. He's an unassuming man and likes to travel modestly. Sometimes they throw him off the train. You think we've warmed up the engine for the past 3 hours and hitched up 8 rail cars just to transport a young man like you, in the pink of health, who could perfectly useful here and has no need to go there? You think that's why we've blasted tunnels, dynamited tons of rocks, and laid out hundreds of miles of track, in bad weather and good, not to mention continual line surveillance to ward off saboteurs, and all that for... Well, of course, Plume says. I understand completely. I just came on board for the view. Idle curiosity, that's all. Many thanks. And he goes back down with his luggage, prepared to continue the journey on foot. In Rome, he wants to see the Colosseum. Sorry, he is told. It is already in bad shape. And then, my dear sir, you'll want to touch it, lean against it, sit on it. Why do you think these places are in ruins? We've made our mistakes in the past, but from now on, that's out. Oh, well, of course. I just wanted to buy a postcard or maybe some slides, if that's all right, and he leaves Rome without having seen a thing. But he says nothing, he doesn't complain. He thinks of those less fortunate than himself who cannot travel at all, whereas he travels. He travels all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.